Change the following decimal into percentage. So we're done converting percentages into decimals and we're doing the reverse now. So we're converting decimals into percentages. Percentages. So emphasis is on the word cent. Cent, which literally means 100. So let's jump right into it. The first step is to identify the operation that needs to be done in order to get to the desired result. So we need to convert the decimal into a percentage, which means we need to get rid of this decimal altogether. Now in order to do that, we need to multiply this with a number which would help us get rid of this decimal. So we'll multiply this by 100. One reason why we're doing that is because we're dealing with percentages, which means cents. So this is our go-to number. So whenever we're talking about percentages, we multiply the decimal by 100. Now before I move on to the second step, there's something I want to share with you. So there is a general rule that we follow whenever we're talking about multiplying decimals with numbers that have zeros, which means we're talking about numbers like 10 or 100 or 1000 or 10,000, so on and so forth. Now the rule is whenever we multiply a decimal number with one of these numbers, the decimal is going to move towards the right, hence the arrow pointing towards the right. Now the question is, how many spaces is this decimal going to move? So that depends on the number of zeros in this number. So let's suppose there's a 1 0 that we're dealing with, which means we're multiplying with this number with 10. So the decimal is going to move one place towards the right. Now if we're dealing with 2 zeros, which means we're multiplying that number with 100, the decimal is going to move 2 places towards the right. If we're dealing with 1000, which means at 3 zeros, we're going to move the decimal 3 places towards the right, so on and so forth. Now with that said, and I hope it doesn't confuse you, we'll move on to the second step. So the second step is really easy. We just need to multiply those numbers that we've written in step 1 and get to the answer. So from the rule that we just discussed, we know what is going to happen to this decimal point now. So we know that we're multiplying these two numbers, which means the decimal is going to move towards the right. And since there are 2 zeros in 100, the decimal is going to move 2 places towards the right, which means 1 and 2. So it's going to be right here, just after 3. And we don't need to put decimal after 3 like this, because there's no number following 3, right? So we don't consider a 0.0 as a number, which means we're left with 3. And since we need to convert this into a percentage, we're going to add the percent symbol, and there we go. We've converted 0.03 and our answer is 3%.